Toward the back end of the show, Mark joins us as always. We got some fun topics for him today, including Tiger Woods back in the news. And why was he hanging out with Donald Trump's granddaughter this weekend? Ooh, it is all ahead on this President's Day, where we start with the news from the weekend. I just have so much fun watching Elon Musk post things on X about what he's finding within the government. And this weekend, he posted a chart, a graph, of what the Social Security Administration says are the number of people in each age bracket on the rolls at Social Security. And it turns out that there are 25 million people 100 or older on the rolls, which is not possible. There are 16 million on the rolls that are 110 or older. He called it an amazing puzzle and Social Security insane. We knew this was going to happen. Social Security is the one thing that members of both parties, if it crosses their desk, becomes legislation, if there's ever a vote that includes Social Security, it's always, yes, we will add funds to Social Security. Yes, yes, yes. Politically, it's the one thing both parties agree on. Fund it, fund it, fund it. Well, imagine all the waste in our government and what's been going on now for decades. And what waste there must be in Social Security because nobody's been looking. Nobody's been looking. And Elon is teasing that this is just a wild scenario, that vampires must be collecting money out of Social Security. And I think they're going to find fraud and corruption and all kinds of goods in Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid. I think they're going to be the big ones. Now, another big one could be the military, because Trump is sounding a warning that he wants to cut the military budget in half, while also improving military pay and systems. That is quite aggressive, but what he wants to do is get with Russia and China and say, we're not going to build any more nukes. And if we all agree we're not building any more nukes, that could take half the budget away from the Department of Defense. You could actually run the thing in better shape for less money. All of these things are very, very aggressive, but not nearly as aggressive as the reaction from people that hate it. They're literally against your money. They're against your health, and they're against your safety and security. We've chronicled that. The latest is Missouri's own rock star, Sheryl Crow. And what she did over the weekend is just fabulous. She's really upset at Elon Musk. She's really upset that they're cutting spending, that U.S. aid has been cut, that NPR and PBS are in the crosshairs. She's really, really, really upset with this. So what does Sheryl Crow do? Sheryl Crow went out to Instagram in front of her house, filmed a video of a flatbed truck picking up her Tesla and hauling it off. She then is quoted saying, "My parents always said you are who you hang out with. There comes a time when you have to decide who you are willing to align with. So long, Tesla," as she waves goodbye to her Tesla. Then she says, quote, "Money is donated to @NPR, which is under threat by President Musk." Oh, that's funny, President Musk. That's really funny, Sheryl. That's so funny. President Musk. She donated it to NPR in hopes that the truth will continue to find its way to those willing to know the truth. Here's the problem with the madness when these people do these things. She's proving what NPR is. By donating the money to NPR and having a completely liberal stance to her, she's saying this is our liberal outlet. Now, defend your position for the government to fund that when the government doesn't fund anything conservative. Similar. There is no national conservative public radio that the government funds. So you have your little liberal network on radio and television that we all pay for and get no say in. And the second problem she had is by donating the money, she's showing everyone how NPR should survive. NPR and PBS can survive. They can keep going. They just need more donors. It shouldn't be the taxpayers at large paying for that. If these really wealthy elite people, I'm sure George Soros would be more than happy to kick in $50 million a year to keep NPR and PBS afloat. There will be donations from the left all over the place. Let them. If they want to keep that thing going by donating or whatever it is they call it, and I'm not so sure that if the government no longer funds NPR or PBS, that they should actually be government entities or considered charity if you donate at one of their telethons or radiothons. I'm not sure. We'll see what happens to the entities themselves. But Sheryl Crow has pointed out this is the way to do it. That's it. You're a rich rock star. You get royalties from some great songs. And I'm a Sheryl Crow fan, man. I love her music. I do. But she's just literally on video showing you the way to keep NPR and PBS afloat. Rich celebrities, elitists on the left, donating. Perfect. It can be like your church. Some people tithe. A lot of folks do a lot of charity work and give money to things and volunteer. Perfect. Let those on the left support NPR and PBS to keep it going and not the rest of us. And I sometimes don't think they think these things through at all, that she's sitting there showing that to us. It's pretty wild, really. Not nearly as wild as Eric Swalwell. You remember this guy, right? The congressman who slept with the Chinese spy? Swalwell says this weekend, maybe the most outrageous thing I've ever heard anybody say about Donald Trump. This is next level. I'm going to read you the quote. This is just crazy. Eric Swalwell says, quote, all plane crashes are Trump's fault, unquote. And he points out that in the first 3 weeks of the Trump presidency, it's the most plane crashes there have ever been in the first 3 weeks of any presidency. Therefore, it's Trump's fault that another twin-engine plane fell out of the sky in Georgia this weekend and a couple of passengers on that plane died. He's literally blaming plane crashes on Trump. Folks, these people are unhinged. They're psycho. And Pete was just talking about a little bit ago, the Tom Hanks skit on Saturday Night Live, completely unfunny. Tom Hanks is wildly talented. He's done so many things I'm a fan of, but hating Trump isn't one of them because he really hates Trump. And he couldn't wait to put on a jean jacket, a MAGA hat, grow out some whiskers on his chin, and act like he was some redneck from the sticks that's a Trump voter that hates black people. He couldn't wait to do that. The problem was, even the liberal audience at Saturday Night Live's anniversary show didn't laugh. They didn't think it was funny. These people haven't gotten the memo. We are post-racist, folks. It just isn't real. And America knows it, and they voted as such. It's dumb for the Democrats to try to keep this thing going. There was another skit that Tom Hanks did on Saturday Night Live where he basically came out and did a monologue. You know how they do in memoriam? And he came out, and this was supposed to be a funny sketch, and it was a couple of it were relatively funny, but the message in it was just disgusting. He comes out in memoriam, and you think he's going to talk about all the people that were on Saturday Night Live that had died, and that wasn't what it was. It was in memoriam of the sketches that didn't age well. And it was talking about sketches that they did with bad accents. You know, maybe the old Gumby sketches that Eddie Murphy used to do could now perceive to be, racist or something like that now. The samurai swords. We remember all those classic, old, really funny skits. Really funny. They're literally on their anniversary show apologizing with Tom Hanks, trying to be funny about it, but apologizing for what they've been for 50 years. Like, please forgive us. We've been insensitive to some people. We know it. Those skits are buried and they're dead in memoriam. Who cares? Why go back and apologize for things in the past like that? They were acceptable at the time, they were cutting edge, and they were funny. The show lasted 50 years. It's lasted 50 years, so what you did worked. Why do people feel compelled to go back and apologize for what they were just because the times have changed? I don't understand it. There must be a lot of guilt with a lot of people in a lot of places about things that just don't seem to matter much to me. That was probably more offensive to me, anyway, than the Trump thing, making fun of the Trump voter. I don't have a problem with Saturday Night Live making fun of Trump voters, even if it's a stereotype. As long as it's funny. The problem is it wasn't funny. It wasn't even remotely funny. Nobody laughed. I mean, it was a complete dud. This was a character, this Doug character, apparently was born in 2016 on Saturday Night Live when Trump was president the first time. So they brought Tom Hanks back as Doug, the Bubba that voted for Trump, and it just wasn't funny. No surprise there. And are they going to apologize in another 50 years for having a skit called Black Jeopardy? I mean, the skit last night was literally called Black Jeopardy. At some point, is that insensitive? I mean, if we get to where we want to be with race relations, that'll be offensive, right? They'll look back and go, what were we thinking? Black Jeopardy, that's not funny at all. That's mean. That's wrong. We shouldn't do that. No, these people are loony, and it's getting weirder every day. My favorite is just the celebrity meltdowns, the things that celebrities do, because they just are not connected to the real world in any way. And it's so funny to watch them fall apart with all of this stuff that's going on. All of it. Okay, Jared Koller's waiting for us. We're going to talk with the gentleman who was at Channel 5 in the sports department for 10 years. He has now left. Last night was his final broadcast. He's been so helpful to us, talking a little Chiefs football during the season. We'll get to know him a little bit better. What's next, what he thinks of media, and we'll talk some sports. All straight ahead on Uncanceled. This is KCMO Talk Radio.
Call Kevin Kietzman, 913-408-7957. Now on 95.7 FM.
Welcome back to Uncanceled. We've got Jared Koller in studio. He helped us out a couple of times during the Chiefs run this season. I don't know what we did, whether we jinxed it or what happened, but now he's just out of Channel 5 and working for a company called Two Circles Made here in Kansas City, which is, I would call it like a new media company, but it's kind of the same stuff he's done before, just not with a television station. It's a media company. Jared, welcome. How are you, sir?
Hey, Kevin. Glad to be here in person with you. As someone I grew up listening to, it's an honor to be with you once again.
It's very kind of you. Last night was your final broadcast at Channel 5, huh?
It was going out with a bang. A little trip down memory lane, and the comments that people have shared over the last week has been very humbling. When you're in the grind, Kevin, you don't realize how many people are actually watching you through that camera. And to hear that I had some kind of positive connection with just a few people here in Kansas City is pretty special.
How emotional was it?
You know, I don't think it was emotional because I was proud of the run that I went on, but I'm excited for this new opportunity. And I think it's the right move, but I'll miss it. I'll miss the people, and I'll miss being able to talk to Kansas City in that way. But again, it was a good 5-year continuous run, and dating back to when I was part-time, 7.5 years at KCT5.
Wow, that's awesome, man. Congratulations on all your time there. You'll miss some coworkers, I'm sure. But you're still going to be in Kansas City, which is a great thing. Before we talk about what you're doing with Two Circles, let's go back over your career at Channel 5 and some of the things that you covered. What would you say was the highlight of your time there? Because you're like me, growing up in Kansas City, loving the sports teams, wanting to be in sports media in this town, in your hometown. I think it's a very special thing. What were the highlights for you?
Sure. Well, I think some of the best stories that we've been fortunate of as Kansas City to witness over the past 5 years, obviously the Chiefs are the headliner. The Super Bowl last year in Las Vegas, getting to be there on the field after the game. What I tell people, though, is I watched the entire fourth quarter and overtime from a tunnel on a silent TV that was 30 inches, because in order to get on the field after the game, you got to wait. So it was like, oh, I was the Super Bowl. I'm like, I watched it just like you, and I was a nervous wreck, but still getting to be there, go on the field after the game with my brain going 100 miles an hour. I think that was obviously a highlight. A Super Bowl, something, Kevin, growing up watching the Dick Vermeil teams, the Marty Schottenheimer teams, I didn't really envision a Super Bowl, so to get there was very cool. But I think the Royals turnaround is something that I don't know if people really appreciate how remarkable it was, going from losing 100 games one year to winning a postseason series. So seeing that rise, Bobby Witt Jr., Salvador Perez, that was a highlight. And then KU, being in New Orleans, I was there when they won the national championship, headlined by Kansas City kids, Ochai Agbaji from Oak Park, Christian Brown from Blue Valley Northwest. I would say those kind of three tiers were really special.
So tell me about the emotion of the players last year at the Super Bowl when they won. When you're on the field with them, there's no regular season game or even a playoff game that matches what you probably felt coming from them. What was the vibe you were getting from all of their celebrations?
You know, in that moment, to a degree, exhaustion, because people forget how long of a game that was. They went the full overtime. There are many moments where the Chiefs almost could have lost that game on fourth down, but that team was just so resilient. So I think exhaustion, I think surreal for a lot of players. I did not personally talk to Patrick Mahomes, though, but you could also tell that he was like soaking in this moment. And when you see those high-level players appreciating that moment, I think as a fan, I think as a media member, it also allows you to step back and take in the moment.
There's a lot of people will talk about local television news, and I've said for many years now, the Kansas City Star does their thing. We do our thing here. Everybody's, polarized, whatever. To me, I think local news is important as it's ever been. I don't know that it is as impactful it was maybe in the 1970s or something like that. But I see good reporting. I see it in sports. I see it in news. It's really important. What do you think the state of local news, sports, weather is in Kansas City right now?
Yeah, I think the Kansas City distinction is because this is a very connected city, and it's one that we take a lot of pride in being a part of Kansas City and being from Kansas City. And so I think having that local resource, someone that understands the city and can communicate with the people in the news front saying, hey, this is important. This is what people care about. I think that's vital, whether regardless of what TV station, radio station, like you all writing, whoever it is. And same goes with sports. The ability to dive deeper. You watch ESPN and they're going to give you the 1,000-foot view, give you the hot takes. They don't know the details that here in Kansas City we do. And so having the opportunity that I have to be able to watch most every Royals game, every Chiefs game, and be able to say, hey, this is important. This is something that you maybe didn't think about. This is something that you maybe not know or you should highlight or appreciate. I think is important because you're not going to get that when you go to the bigger media companies. And that's why I think local will always be important, especially here in KC.
We're talking with Jared Koller. Jared, sports and weather, I feel like maybe are more integrated with the news departments now in television than they were when I was in it. They used to just hand it off to the sports guy. But now, everybody goes. It's like everybody's on location. All the anchors are there. Maybe the weather person's there, the meteorologist, the whole thing. Tell me a little bit about what it's like to work in that environment, and did it change in your years?
Yeah, I think there's always a change in philosophy, and especially as when you get like new management coming in and they realize how big sports is, they want news to be a part of that. They want weather to be a part of that and it be integrated because they know that Kansas City is going to be talking about Arrowhead. Like on Sundays, hey, the Chiefs are the biggest story in town.
Right.
And so they want to cover that holistically. And I think that's smart. And so I think especially with weather, like a week like this, people are talking about weather. And so that's where at times maybe you'd want it to where, hey, sports, just go do your thing. But it's all one big train moving in the same direction, and you hop on or get off.
Okay, let's talk about Two Circles Made. This is where you're headed now in Kansas City, a startup company that's grown really big. You estimate maybe there's about 70 employees here. Amazon's one of the clients, like Thursday Night Football. Tell me what Two Circles Made is and how it operates.
Sure. So I'll be a sports producer there. Basically, the idea is to make content. This is globally. I'm part of the North American team. For clients, whether that is leagues, brands, athletes, or teams that, as you said, like Amazon with Thursday Night Football, they help promote either for growing audiences or growing revenue. So it's not like local TV. It has you're working for the client. And shout out Andrew Carter, who, if you were here in Kansas City, was a sports anchor at KC25, went to Mizzou just like myself. He started Let It Fly Media a handful of years ago, and now it has grown into this global company that's really incredibly exciting. A lot of talented people that do unique content, not constricted by a 2-minute runtime. You can go long form, you can go in depth, and I'm excited to really hit the ground running.
Man, I remember when it first started as Let It Fly, and now it's Two Circles Made, and I thought, what exactly is this, and how does this work? And it's just been a smashing success, hasn't it?
It's grown, it's evolved. It started as just, this Kansas City company that did a lot of things in Kansas City, and now to grow where it is today is pretty cool to now be jumping in on the back end.
Yeah, it's cool stuff. Jared Koller's here. He's with Two Circles Made. We will take a little bit of a break here on Uncanceled. When we come back, let's talk about your Tiger basketball team.
Okay, MIZ,
How
let's
about
do it.
that outfit, man? Is this not unbelievable? Like unexpected and fun.
After last year, this is a wild ride.
All right, we're going to get into that. We'll talk a little KU basketball and some Royals spring training. Jared Koller is in studio with us. This is KCMO Talk Radio, Uncanceled on 95.7 FM.
KCMO, Kansas City's place to talk. On 95.7 FM and 710 AM. If it's happening in KCMO, it's on KCMO 95.7 FM. Here's Kevin Kietzman.
Welcome back to the show. Jared Koller in studio with us today. He is with Two Circles Made, a video production and sports production megastore warehouse right here in Kansas City. He's joining their team to be a sports producer after his years at KCTV5 covering sports. And why not start with the Missouri Tigers, man? They lost a couple of close games 2 weeks ago. They come back on Wednesday night, and they just bombed Oklahoma. Then they go to Georgia and boat race a 15-0 run in the second half to pull away. They're doing things that make it look like they're a really, really good basketball team. Where is Tiger Nation with this Mizzou basketball team?
It's funny because the SEC can be cruel. They have some losses. They lost on a buzzer beater to Texas A&M. They barely lost to Tennessee. And then you wonder, oh, my gosh, is this top 5, top 10 team? But the way in which they're winning, Kevin, that's how you hit the nail on the head. They're beating good teams by a lot on the road, at home, and that's what you got to do in the SEC. They got another one big game coming up this week against Alabama. But the depth of this team and the turnaround that Dennis Gates has done after they didn't win a single conference game last year.
Unbelievable.
This turnaround's been incredible. They got a Bishop Miege product and Mark Mitchell leading the way. They play 10 guys every night, and so they just ride the hot hand, and they're going to potentially do some damage in the tournament.
Doesn't Dennis Gates have to have consideration for National Coach of the Year?
Which he did 2 years ago, because remember he took over for Conzo Martin team that was very disappointing, brought them to the tournament, and so this roller coaster ride, but you give him credit for building it up, then taking a step back, but building it up once again.
Is it even worth revisiting what happened last year and why? How did that happen?
I think injuries. John Tanji, who then transferred to Wisconsin, has been really great. Caleb Grill was out for most of the year. He's one of their leading scorers. Tamar Bates, also a Piper product. He actually did play, but I think some injuries and some bad luck, and that's life in college basketball, Kevin, when you can bring in transfers in this new NIL portal world. Sometimes you hit a home run, sometimes you strike out.
It's so interesting. When he first got there, I thought it was just going to be score. That there was just going to be just fast team, lots of points, the whole deal. What I see in Missouri this year that's made all the difference in the world, they're scoring off defense. They're getting takeaways. They're getting after people at times. Nobody plays 40 great minutes of defense, but at times when they really get after it, that's how you get a 15-0 run, and it's keyed by takeaways. I see them doing that. Has he evolved as a coach with his defense, do you think?
I think what it really showcases is how important their depth is. We look at guys like Bill Self, who come tournament time, their rotation is down to like 7 players, 8 players. With Mizzou, they're still playing 10 guys, and sometimes that's a little risky because, hard to find a rhythm. What it does is it keeps the defense fresh. You have fresh legs who out there and is guarding you so that a player is only playing 20 minutes, but he's playing hard defense over those 20. And I think that is a strategy because Gates really all 3 years has played a lot of guys. Sometimes we wonder, why is this guy getting these many minutes? It's to help defense.
How far they go?
Oh, man. I mean, the tournament
now.
is tough. I think Mizzou fans would take a second week. And if they can get the Sweet 16, even the Elite 8, Kevin, Mizzou's never made the Final Four. So that's where I can't talk in KU terms.
I know. Let's go, though. I'm a fan. I like watching them play. It's good to see basketball played well, and they're having quite a season. That's fun. Kansas, on the other hand, Bill Self had some salty language after their loss to Utah, and then went on to say, I'm tired of regrouping. Like they've regrouped 2 or 3 times. This is the most un-Bill Self-looking team I've ever seen. Can it be fixed?
Boy, I was late to the party on being down on this team because I think a lot of KU fans are. I'm like, you give Bill Self credit. He's going to figure it out. He always does. Kevin, it's late February, and this team has not figured it out. Not saying that they can't because, again, the talent is there, and Bill Self has the pedigree, but they don't have an identity. You know, they are not consistent offensively. At times, they play no defense. They can't win on the road. They don't have go-to scoring on the perimeter. The transfers outside of Zeke Mayo have bombed. And I think Bill Self is looking for answers. If he is, I know I don't have the answers.
Yeah. I think lacking toughness. I wonder if NIL's part of this thing, if it's harder to coach the way he coached in the past because these kids all have money. You can't sit them on the bench anymore and threaten their playing time because they'll transfer. I think a lot's changed, man. I think the game has changed.
Yeah. And shooting from the outside, that's where Kansas has some size and a unique player like Hunter Dickinson, KJ Adams, Flory Badunga. A lot of teams are able to score more than because they're able to do better on the outside.
I saw this stat over the weekend. Kansas has played 7 games against teams that, if you look at bracketology, the teams that would be in the tournament right now, Kansas has played 7 games against teams in the tournament since Thanksgiving. They're 1-6.
Oof.
They don't beat tournament teams.
Yeah.
I'm not talking about like top 5 teams. We're not talking about Duke here or Alabama or Auburn, which was a great game, by the way, wasn't it?
Yeah.
That was fun to watch. I don't know. It seems awful late for to turn all that around.
Yeah, and again, when last segment we talked about the 2022 national title team, they kind of struggled down the stretch of the regular season, but they had the injection of life in Remy Martin coming back, who really was a spark plug for that team, starting the Big 12 tournament. I don't see that coming.
Right.
It's not like they have a late addition that's going to push them over the finish line. Maybe something emerges. Right now, it's hard to predict.
KU and MU will both be in the tournament. I don't think K-State will. You agree with that?
Not out of the possibility, but they dug themselves such a hole that you give them credit for digging out, but it'd have to be a pretty Cinderella story.
Yeah, they got bombed on Saturday night, and they got a tough one tonight at Utah. KU has BYU tomorrow. That's going to be a handful for KU.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little Royals baseball. Cole Reagans gets a contract over the weekend, $13.25 million. I used to rail on the agents in baseball. They drove me crazy back in the day. This would have been the 90s, the early 2000s, and even late 80s. The agents were in it for themselves. They were never in it for the player. And I never understood why young players didn't sign deals like Cole Reagans just did. Some people will be critical and say, Cole Reagans is an ace. That's an insulting amount of money. But he's had 2 Tommy John surgeries. He's got $13.25 million guaranteed if he gets hit by a bus today. He's got it. His family is set no matter what road he goes down. I love that baseball's getting to a place where the agents are allowing this to happen and the players are understanding $13 million is great. The Royals could redo the contract in a couple of years and extend him out if he's healthy and keeps pitching well. The Royals seem pretty committed to a lot of players long term, and they seem to have the money. How did this all change?
Yeah, I think it actually started with Bobby Witt Jr. at this time last year, Kevin, signing by far the biggest contract in Royals history, one of the biggest contracts in baseball history, which keep in mind, Kevin, that was coming off a team that lost 106 games. And Bobby Witt Jr. said, you know what? John Sherman, I'm trusting you, J.J. Piccolo, Matt Quatrero. And I think that started the trend, adding in, of course, the Michael Wacha, the Seth Lugo that signed in. Salvador Perez has signed a couple contracts here. But then Cole Reagans this year, as you said, he's like, you know what? If Bobby is signing here, it's not a long-term deal for Reagans, but he says, you know what? I'm going to commit at least for the short term instead of this arbitration and go through that where I potentially could make money. You're taking that certainty. You're investing in the organization. And I think in a small market baseball team where it's not the NFL, you know, not everybody's on the same playing field. You got the Dodgers, you got the Yankees. It's important for the players to have that faith in the organization. And that's something the Royals, it looks like they're starting to bring back.
They brought in a leadoff hitter, Jonathan India, who is apparently going to get on base in front of Bobby Witt better than anybody did last year because Bobby Witt had 400 and some at bats last year with nobody on base. I mean, that's just unbelievable. 400 and some at bat, and he still had the year he had.
Yeah.
Can you imagine if they get on base in front of him more?
No, that's people ask, how can the Royals be even better? Because a lot went right last year, Kevin. As you know, they're very healthy, and that's one of the reasons they were good. Odds are they won't be as healthy this year, but if they can improve an offense that before Vinny Pasquantino went down last year late in August was a top 5 offense in the American League with the worst leadoff hitting position because they didn't have just one guy in all of baseball. Now they have a guy that gets on base at a 350 rate in front of Witt, Pasquantino, Perez, Michael Massey is the 5. Suddenly that offense theoretically could take a step forward. Again, they need more than just the 3 hitters that they had last year. It starts with India. He's in a new ballpark. We'll see how it translates. But I like that strategy of, hey, you've got one of the best players in baseball in Bobby Witt Jr. Get some ducks on the pond for him.
I have no particular reason to think that it's this year, but it could be this year. I get a little bit worried about Salvador Perez, that one of these days he's going to show up and look like Travis Kelce right now. You know, I mean, Kelce had his worst year ever and maybe hanging it up. I don't know how. I mean, it seems too good to be true. I mean, he hits these home runs. He's a great clutch hitter. Mm-hmm. What would you expect for the rest of his career? How many years can Salvi go, and is he going to play more first base and DH this year?
Kevin, I think a lot of people said what you just said 4 years ago.
Yeah, I know.
3 years ago, 2 years ago, and last year he had his highest full season on base percentage. He took more walks. The power didn't go down. As you said, he had clutch moments. He played great defense at first base. He was a catcher for all his entire year, and now he's even more valuable. Father Time will win, but I am absolutely not going to predict that it's strike because he continues to beat it. And whether that's his workout routine, because he's not a small guy, but he's able to stay healthy for almost all of his career, despite the position he plays, the power he does. He plays with such joy and enthusiasm. I think that's why it's so important to have him in the lineup. If Salvi does take a big step back this year, I think that's going to be tough to overcome. I think he and Vinny Pasquantino have to be fulcrums in that lineup. It's interesting saying Travis Kelce is the comp. Kelce, worst year, still top 5, top 10 tight end.
Pretty good, yeah.
If Perez can still be a top 5, 10 catcher, despite taking a little bit of step back, I think the Royals will take that.
I think he's headed to Cooperstown. I think Salvador Perez is a Hall of Famer. A lot of people will push back against that and say it isn't there yet. He needs to do more and this and that. But I just love the way he plays. I loved it from day one. I remember his first game vividly, picking those two
Tampa
runners off.
Bay.
Yeah, just picking the runners off base. I'm like, oh my gosh, do they have a catcher? I remember the Royals at the time saying, we got this stud in the minor leagues that's a whale of a catcher. And they would tell you off the record, we're not sure he can hit.
Mm.
And I was like, well, that doesn't sound very good, you know? And then here comes Salvador Perez, and we thought, I mean, he was the best. Those first 5-7 years or whatever at catcher, he was so great.
Yeah.
And then just started mashing the ball, hitting home runs and stuff. You're like, what an unbelievable find the Royals got.
48 home runs in
Yeah.
2021. Led all of a catcher leading all of baseball in home runs and RBI. It's interesting because, yeah, he kind of made his mark as a Gold Glove catcher, and then he reinvented himself into someone who's going to hit more home runs maybe than anyone in Royals history and make Cooperstown because of his hitting. And I think the argument for the Baseball Hall of Fame really has picked up in the last year because, one, he was the captain on a team, got back to the postseason a decade after he won World Series MVP.
Yeah.
That kind of longevity is important, and he just won the Roberto Clemente Award for basically being the best guy off the field in all of baseball. No Royal has ever won that award. So I think if he can have a couple more years of just getting out there and having some moments on a young team, the narrative, you know it's hard to get into the Baseball Hall of Fame. That narrative, we might see a second Royal. Only George Brett is in Cooperstown. Boy, that'd be great if Salvi can join
Was
him.
there anything cooler than that wiffle ball video? When he
Yeah.
stopped at those kids' houses and just started playing wiffle ball with
All
them?
about that wasn't, and as someone who was in the media, that wasn't like, hey, Salvi's going to be here.
No.
Completely unprompted, but that's how much he loves baseball, Kevin. And how can you not root for a guy like that?
It's crazy. And you knew it was impromptu because the video was awful. It was like the mom on the deck, right? The mom, she got her iPhone out and started shooting it from the deck.
Yeah.
And the ball would go launching in the air and they weren't following the ball. Like, where'd the ball go? You know, it's just mom out there shooting her kids
Yeah.
with Salvador Perez. That is Salvi in a nutshell, man. And he has no bad days. He's
Yeah.
just that guy. He gets up and has a good day every day.
Yeah, and that's what, when you talk to his teammates, he's like, the guy you guys see is how he is in the clubhouse. Fierce competitor, and I think that's what got lost over the last few years because he was on a lot of losing teams. Like, he wants to win, but he wants to have fun. I think that's also Kansas City in a nutshell, that Salvador Perez wants to go do that, can go do that. Would he do that in New York in a big city? I don't think so, Kevin. That's why Kansas City's great, and Kansas City's lucky to have someone like Salvi who wants to do that and wants to have that connection instead of being off in his own world.
A lot's been made the last week of Ned Yost returning to the organization with a role, special advisor to the general manager. But then his comments were like, I'm going to be here for Matt Quatrero. I'm going to be a sounding block. Anything he wants, I think I can help him. I've got something to offer. What do you think that looks like with Ned Yost? How often is he around, you think?
Yeah, because, Kevin, you listened to a lot of Ned Yost post-game comments. I don't know if I would have ever predicted this. I thought he would go to his farm in Georgia and just say, hey, watch baseball from afar. I don't know how it's going to evolve, but I think having that experience, it can't hurt. And as someone who was in Kansas City for most of my life, having the tie to the 2014 and 15 team, because that team was special. They had a connection, a great bond in the clubhouse that I think propelled the postseason runs, where they were down 4 runs against Oakland in the 8th inning, came back to win. Down 4 runs against Houston, came back to win in the divisional series. Whatever Yost can provide about how to build that culture where you're able to come back in spite of adversity and root for one another, pull for another, that in baseball sometimes can get lost, I think is a benefit.
Jared, here's what I want to do. As you travel the world in your new position, I want to have you on as like a global roving reporter wherever you are. So will you let us know where you're going to be and when so we
Sure.
can get you on the phone? And
As long as I don't have to speak any other languages, all right? Just English is tough enough for me, all right?
2 Circles Made, and you can follow on social media. Is the website 2 Circles Made as well?
I believe so, yeah.
People want to check you out. 2 Circles Made, Jared Koller. We wish you the very best. Congratulations on your time in television, and go get them with 2 Circles.
Kevin, I appreciate having me on, and for all of Kansas City for listening to me, watching me, however it is. As a Kansas City kid, it always meant the world, so I appreciate it.
Jared Koller, 2 Circles Made, right here on KCMO Talk Radio.
You're listening to Kevin Kietzman Uncanceled on KCMO Talk Radio 95.7 FM.
It seems unbelievable the criticism the Trump administration is getting and the blowback from certain places, and it certainly has been directed at Elon Musk a lot. But how could you even criticize what's going on today? How could you possibly find a way to criticize this? Elon is offering up his best and brightest from SpaceX, and they're at the FAA's Air Traffic System Command today, and he's willing to volunteer his people to help us design a better air traffic control system, which most people in the industry agree is outdated and needs complete reform. That's not costing us anything. If he's putting his SpaceX people on this, it's not costing anything. I've not seen a government contract awarded or anything like that. But he takes these people and they're going to the Air Traffic Command Center to take a look at how it works, to hear the input from these people on, what the holes are in the system, and he's going to put them to work on it. The spirit of America right now, the spirit of what's going on is maybe the most valuable part of all of this. There seems to be a sort of a can-do attitude sweeping over the country. We saw a lot of great patriotism yesterday at the Daytona 500. Trump did his flyby in Air Force One. He got the beast out on the track, doing the hot laps as the pace car. He got on the radio and talked to the drivers to start the race, said, "This is your favorite president talking." Yes, it is. We like the can-do spirit. We love all these things that are taking place and the attitude of, let's just do it. Let's just get people to come in and do it. If the smartest people are at SpaceX, let's get them in and look at our air traffic system. Let's take some help. Government's not the answer. I think we know that. Outside help is very, very good, and we like that. Also, did you see this weekend there are reports that the new WNBA team, Mark, is going to be in Cleveland?
I did see that. That's disappointing.
$250 million for a WNBA team. Does that sound like a good investment?
I mean, if, the Longs and the Mahomeses want to do it and spend their money, that's fine. Whatever they want to do.
The Mahomes group did not get it. I'm not brokenhearted over this. There's only 16 teams in that league. It's reasonable to think that if the league gets better, it will grow, and eventually Kansas City will be part of it, just not now. I sort of understand that. I don't think Patrick Mahomes is accustomed to being told no, though.
That's true.
Doesn't get that a lot. Did you see Tiger Woods? This weekend was at the golf tournament in California. He's like the host player, but he didn't play this year because of injury. He had Kai Trump with him, the granddaughter, the golfing girl, right? She's 18. She's headed off to Miami to play golf. Would you let your daughter get on Tiger Woods' airplane and fly to California with him?
Probably not solo.
Thank you. Thank you. Let's just say the hard part out loud.
Unless he's trying to hook him up with his son, maybe, because they're similar age.
Jessica told me that she thought Don Jr. was on the trip too, but I didn't see any video or pictures. I saw a lot of pictures of Kai and Tiger, but I didn't see Don anywhere. If Don Jr. was on that plane too, it's all good.
Yeah, I was going to say, if I can ride with her, with Tiger, that's fine. I'm there the whole time.
I wouldn't let my daughter's like 30 today. I wouldn't let her go get on a plane with Tiger Woods. No how, no way. All right, Mark, what is wrong with the Kansas Jayhawks?
I just don't think they're a team. I don't know. That's kind of weird to say, but like at the end, I kind of missed this part of the game because I fell asleep. It was kind of late at night on Saturday, but I guess at the end of the game, a player got hurt from KU and nobody went over to help him. I mean, what are they doing? It's like everybody for themselves. I know it's the NIL stuff, people making money, but it's kind of disappointing if you're a Kansas fan. And I don't know how to fix it. Kind of like what Jared was saying.
It is, and Bill Self was very frustrated, and he made some comments after the game that these guys got to toughen up. They got to man up. They got to look in the mirror and man up. And he says, I don't know why we're not good at the start of game or coming out after halftime. They come out of the locker room, if you had a trademark of KU basketball, it's that they always come out and beat the living daylights out of you before the first TV timeout.
When they have a good inbounds play under the hoop.
Yeah, right. Yes. But, I mean, the number of games that we've watched through the years where it's 11-3 at the start is just like, and it's just not happening. And I don't know how much of it is new league, different opponents, more scouting going into this because there's just more teams to prepare for. I honestly don't know, but something's changed. It doesn't seem like teams are as afraid of Kansas either as they used to be. There was an intimidation factor that it was palpable. You just knew it. teams would go out there and look across and see KU was there, even if they were playing at home, and go, we're in trouble today. And that doesn't seem to be happening anywhere in college basketball. I mean, the biggest game of the weekend was Alabama-Auburn.
Mm-hmm.
At 1-2, what are Alabama and Auburn doing as the best two teams in the country?
Yeah, that's crazy. KU they need to have one player that can just attack the hoop. It should be Zeke Mayo, but he just doesn't do it for some reason.
Yeah, they don't have a
Not sure
clutch
why.
guy. They don't have that clutch guy at the end of the game. That is absolutely for sure. So we'll keep our eye on that. College basketball season, March Madness, right around the corner. I love the tournament. I absolutely love it. A couple of tough road games for K-State and KU the next couple of nights. Missouri's just rolling. This is going to be fun. So we know we're going to have some tournament basketball. It'll be a good time. Maybe they will get it figured out. We're still a couple of weeks away from the Big 12 tournament here in Kansas City, and we're looking forward to that. Thanks to Jared Koller for coming in from Two Circles Made. This is Uncanceled. I'm Kevin Kietzman. I hope you have a great day. Dan Bongino Show is up next.